Breaking news has arrived, and it's sending shockwaves across the country. Congress has officially passed a sweeping relief measure that includes direct stimulus payments of $2,000 for eligible Americans. This development, long debated and anticipated, has now cleared the legislative hurdles, and households across the nation are preparing for the much-needed support. For months, families have been struggling with rising costs, job instability, and lingering financial uncertainty. Now, this new relief package marks a significant turning point, delivering direct cash assistance intended to bring immediate relief while also boosting the economy. In this broadcast, we will unpack every detail of this landmark decision, from who qualifies to how payments will be distributed, and the exact timeline for when you can expect to see those funds in your bank account. The $2,000 figure has been at the center of heated debate. Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle clashed over whether the government could afford such a measure and whether it would stimulate the economy effectively. After weeks of negotiations, amendments, and late-night sessions on the House and Senate floors, the measure finally received overwhelming support. The president has already signaled approval and has indicated that he will sign the bill into law immediately. This action ensures that the Treasury Department and the Internal Revenue Service can begin the process of dispersing funds without delay. Experts are calling this one of the most significant direct aid packages in recent history, one that could rival earlier stimulus measures passed during economic crises. For millions of Americans, the question now is simple: when will the money arrive? According to official statements released shortly after the vote, the IRS has been preparing systems for weeks in anticipation of passage. This means payments could begin as soon as the first wave of processing is completed. Direct deposit recipients may be the first to see funds, potentially within days of the bill being signed. For those receiving paper checks or prepaid debit cards, the process will take longer, but agencies assure the public that they are working with an aggressive timeline to ensure funds reach households as quickly as possible. Preliminary guidance suggests that the first deposits could hit bank accounts within a matter of weeks, with subsequent waves of checks mailed shortly thereafter. Let's break down eligibility, because this is where many viewers are understandably focused. The legislation specifies that individuals earning up to $75,000 annually will receive the full $2,000 payment. Married couples filing jointly with an income up to $150,000 will also qualify for the full benefit. For families with dependents, the bill includes additional amounts, ensuring households with children receive extra relief. Those with incomes above the thresholds will see the payments reduced gradually until they phase out completely. Importantly, the bill includes provisions for Social Security recipients, veterans, and other groups who might not normally file tax returns, ensuring that they too are included in the relief distribution. Economists are already weighing in on the potential impact. With consumer confidence shaken in recent months, these direct payments could provide a short-term boost to spending. Some households will use the funds to cover essentials such as rent, utilities, and groceries, while others may save or pay down debt. In all scenarios, experts say the effect is likely to be positive, injecting liquidity into local economies across the nation. Small businesses, many of which continue to face challenges, could benefit indirectly as households use their payments to shop, dine, and purchase goods and services. The ripple effect could be substantial, especially in communities that have been hardest hit by the downturn. But with optimism comes a note of caution. Several lawmakers have emphasized that while the stimulus payments are significant, they are not a cure-all for deeper structural challenges. Inflationary pressures, supply chain disruptions, and the rising cost of essentials remain pressing issues. Still, for everyday Americans who have been waiting and watching, this is the moment they have been hoping for. The checks are not just about economic theory, they are about relief in real terms, putting money directly into the hands of families. That reality is what has fueled so much public attention and why the passage of this measure is dominating headlines today. The atmosphere outside Congress following the passage was one of both celebration and relief. Reporters described scenes of lawmakers addressing cheering crowds, some thanking constituents for their patience and advocacy. Advocacy groups, who have pushed relentlessly for higher payments, called the $2,000 figure a victory, though some continue to argue that more will be needed if the economy faces further instability. For now, however, the focus is firmly on execution, ensuring the payments reach households efficiently, transparently, and fairly. Treasury officials have pledged regular updates on distribution, so the public will be kept informed of progress every step of the way. As we continue this deep dive, let's turn to the timeline in more detail. Analysts note that the IRS has streamlined processes since earlier rounds of relief. With infrastructure in place from past disbursements, the expectation is that turnaround times will be faster. For many, the key date to watch is the end of the current month, when the first wave of deposits could be processed. Households receiving direct deposit refunds from recent tax filings are likely to be prioritized, while others will need to wait for paper checks or debit cards to make their way through the postal system. Officials have urged patience, but they also stress that this rollout should be smoother than past efforts thanks to lessons learned. This moment also carries political implications. Lawmakers who pushed hard for the higher payments are already pointing to the passage as a win for working families. Critics, however, argue that the cost of the package adds to an already ballooning national debt. The debate over fiscal responsibility versus immediate relief is far from over, and it is likely to shape conversations in Washington for months to come. What is clear, however, is that the public response has been overwhelmingly supportive. Polls conducted in recent weeks showed strong bipartisan approval among voters for the direct payments, signaling that whatever the political fallout may be, the public appetite for this kind of relief is undeniable. And so, as the news spreads, families across the country are recalculating budgets, making plans, and in some cases, simply breathing a sigh of relief. For parents struggling to keep up with rising costs, for seniors on fixed incomes, and for workers still facing uncertainty, the promise of $2,000 is more than just a number. It is a chance to catch up, to prepare, and to hope. This is the reality of what has just been passed in Congress, and it is why today's announcement will be remembered as a milestone moment in the ongoing effort to stabilize and strengthen the nation's economy. The passage of this stimulus measure not only signals immediate relief, but also sets the stage for what many see as a broader conversation about long-term economic resilience. Already, analysts are predicting that these payments could become a case study in how direct aid helps stabilize households in uncertain times. For policymakers, the challenge ahead will be deciding whether this type of assistance should remain a rare, emergency-driven action or evolve into a more permanent part of the social safety net. Some lawmakers are openly discussing the possibility of exploring recurring payments in the future, though others caution that such steps would require careful consideration of budgetary impacts and long-term fiscal sustainability. Regardless of the debate, the simple fact remains that $2,000 arriving in millions of bank accounts is a tangible and immediate lifeline. Community leaders are emphasizing the practical effects. Nonprofit organizations that work closely with low-income families are already preparing for a shift in needs. With stimulus funds arriving, some households may find themselves able to pay overdue bills, secure better housing, or access childcare. This in turn could free up nonprofit resources to focus on those who continue to fall through the cracks. In cities across the country, local officials are hailing the measure as a boost not only for families, but for regional economies as well. They point out that every dollar spent locally multiplies, supporting jobs, generating tax revenue, and strengthening community stability. The human stories are what bring these statistics to life. Stories of parents able to stock refrigerators, seniors catching up on prescriptions, and workers able to finally repair the car that gets them to their job. Meanwhile, financial institutions are bracing for a surge of activity. Banks and credit unions expect higher deposit volumes and a wave of transactions as households put their stimulus funds to work. Financial advisors are urging recipients to balance urgent needs with long-term goals. They recommend that those able to do so consider setting aside a portion of the payment for savings or emergencies. Debt relief is another common suggestion, with many households using part of their stimulus to pay down credit card balances or loans. This mix of spending, saving, and debt reduction illustrates the diverse ways in which the stimulus will ripple through the economy, underscoring that there is no single right way to use these funds. It depends on each household's unique situation. Attention is also turning to the logistics of payment distribution. The Treasury Department has outlined a phased plan that prioritizes those who have filed recent tax returns with direct deposit information. Social Security recipients, veterans, and others who rely on federal benefits will receive their payments through the same channels they already use, minimizing confusion. For individuals who do not normally file taxes, a simplified process is being made available to ensure they can still receive their funds. Public awareness campaigns are being rolled out, reminding households to double-check their information with the IRS to avoid delays. Officials stress that fraud prevention measures have been strengthened, as previous rounds of stimulus saw attempts by bad actors to exploit the system. Enhanced security protocols aim to protect both individuals and the integrity of the program. As the checks make their way into households, the broader economic picture will come into sharper focus. Analysts will be watching consumer spending patterns closely, tracking how quickly the payments translate into higher sales, increased demand, and job growth. Early indications suggest that many retailers are preparing for an uptick in activity, particularly in sectors such as groceries, clothing, and household goods. At the same time, landlords and utility companies anticipate a surge in payments from tenants and customers who have fallen behind. For businesses, these funds represent both an immediate revenue boost and a chance to regain footing after months of volatility. For workers, especially those in hourly and service sector jobs, the payments may offer a reprieve that helps them weather unpredictable schedules and inconsistent income streams. Political leaders are already leveraging the moment to frame future debates. Proponents of the bill highlight it as proof that government can act decisively to support citizens in times of need. They argue that the success of this measure could build momentum for broader policies focused on healthcare, childcare, and income stability. Critics, however, warn that the mounting national debt cannot be ignored, and they urge future leaders to balance compassion with responsibility. These opposing views will shape the political landscape in the coming months, but for now, the emphasis remains firmly on execution and impact. What matters to most Americans is not the rhetoric, but the reality: money in hand, bills paid, and a measure of relief during challenging times. Beyond politics and economics, there is also a cultural dimension to this moment. In towns, cities, and rural areas alike, conversations are shifting. Families are sitting at kitchen tables calculating how to use the extra funds, while community organizations are planning programs to help recipients maximize their benefits. Social media is already buzzing with stories of relief, plans, and gratitude. Some posts highlight personal victories, like catching up on rent or finally being able to replace worn-out appliances, while others focus on collective resilience, encouraging neighbors to support local businesses with their payments. This cultural shift reflects a sense of shared experience, a reminder that while the pandemic and economic struggles have been deeply personal, the recovery too is something people will navigate together. Looking forward, the passage of this $2,000 stimulus measure could serve as a turning point in the national narrative. It underscores the importance of timely action, the value of direct aid, and the resilience of communities when provided with resources. While the future remains uncertain, one thing is clear: this relief package is more than just legislation. It is a statement about priorities, a recognition of hardship, and a promise of hope. For millions of Americans, the payments are not merely numbers on a ledger. They are the means to breathe easier, to regroup, and to take steps toward a stronger tomorrow. And as the rollout continues, the eyes of the nation will remain fixed on the promises made and the promises kept, watching closely as this historic moment unfolds in real time. In closing, today marks a milestone in the ongoing story of economic recovery. Congress has acted, the President will sign, and agencies are mobilizing to deliver. The checks are coming, $2,000 per eligible individual, with payment dates now officially released. For some, it is the bridge they desperately needed. For others, it is a spark of optimism in uncertain times. Above all, It is proof that in moments of challenge, the system can respond, bringing relief and hope directly to the people who need it most. This is the update the nation has been waiting for, and its impact will be felt in households, neighborhoods, and communities across the United States in the days and weeks to come.